Today's video is all about subframing, which is a simple but very effective compositional technique that you can use to elevate your street photography. First of all, what is subframing? Subframing is very simple. It's essentially where you use one or more elements inside your photograph to then frame another element. So essentially a frame within a frame, or multiple frames within the confines of your photograph. You can use it quite literally, where you have a window, for example, that frames the subject of your photograph, or you can use it in a slightly less obvious way, where you use elements that act as a frame inside your photograph to frame up your subject or point of interest in the photo. And why am I going on about subframing, and why is it so good? Why is it such a good thing to use in your street photography? Well, humans are drawn to frames. If you think about how often we look at frames in our day-to-day life, it might be looking at your phone, which acts as a frame. It might be a piece of artwork in your hallway or in a gallery. It could be a bus window, it could be a shop window, it could be a TV. There's frames in our society everywhere, which creates a familiarity with the audience. You're used to looking inside of frames, and it's usually something interesting that's going on inside of a frame. So you want to look at it, you want to find out what's inside that frame, why is it important? That's the other thing, it gives a bit of importance to the things in your photograph that you want the viewer to be looking at. If it's inside of a frame, the viewer knows really where they want to be looking. That's the important bit of the photograph. It's simple to achieve as well. So when you go out with your camera, you can see frames everywhere. So it's quite quickly you can start using subframing in your photographs to practice and build more interesting compositions. When you have one or more subframes within your photograph, you can just add that extra layer, depth and meaning to your image. Your viewers of the photograph are going to be looking at what's inside those frames, which then subconsciously gives more importance to those subjects or whatever it is you're deciding to frame inside your image. When I was looking for examples of my own work for this video that incorporate subframing, I realised how many of my photographs use subframing. It's something that I'm really drawn to in my work. I think it's so effective and simple, you know, especially if you're a beginner street photographer, which I talk about a lot on this channel. When you're going out with your camera for the first time as a beginner, or maybe the first few weeks that you're getting into street photography, it can be really difficult to know what to look for and what to photograph, and things might pique your interest and be interesting to you, but your pictures might not be turning out like the ones you're looking at on the internet, or you might not be quite happy with them, and sometimes it can get a bit confusing and overwhelming, and you're not really sure what you should be looking out for on the street to make interesting photographs. So that's when you can shift your focus to looking for frames. You know, when you go out and you look for a frame, you look for an interesting wall, maybe someone's drawn some graffiti, and the letter on that graffiti makes a good interesting frame within your photograph. Then all you need really is for someone to walk past, and maybe their head goes inside that letter, and there you go, you've got your subframe, and that makes it for a much more compelling and interesting photograph than if you'd just taken a photo of someone randomly walking past a wall with nothing else of interest there. You wouldn't necessarily want to use subframing in all of your work. For example, if you think of a landscape photographer, if they were to go out and only take photographs when it's misty, their whole portfolio would be of pictures of misty photographs, which might be quite cool. They might be happy with that, and that might be their aesthetic, and that's great. But others might think that's maybe a bit more boring and would prefer more variety. So for me, I like to use subframing quite a lot in my work, but I don't rely on it in every single photograph. Subframing is a really great way to start in composition in street photography, but to sort of level up and create more mystery, intrigue and interest in your photographs, check out this video here where I talk through some tips on how to incorporate reflections into your street photography, which you could then use alongside subframing to create even more compelling images.